Good morning, everybody. Today is Saturday, June 18th, 2022. I'm out here working on the cowl on my 67 Nova, and I've learned a couple of things that I wanted to share with everybody out there in case somebody is doing the job that I am doing. So these cars had all of these holes right here that were basically air vents that brought air into the cowl, and then they came out, at your feet down here inside the car and basically blew, air from outside inside the car, since this car did not have air conditioning. Now, when you run off and put air conditioning on one of these cars, you don't need all of these holes in the cowl anymore. All that really does is, kind of cut up the lines of the car and then bring in a lot of unnecessary water inside the cowl. So what you do on one of these cars, if you're trying to make it really slick, is you cut out all of these pieces and then basically block them off with a piece of sheet metal. You can see that I've already done that right here. You had originally a piece of this sitting right there, and you can see that I've removed that and I've made a piece that goes in there. In doing this for the very first time, I'm learning a little bit about what to do and what not to do. You can see right here that I'm working on this section of the car. And as I'm sitting there putting that into the car, and I've welded it right down across here and here and here, what has ultimately happened is it's actually taken this edge right here and kind of drew it upward. And I'll try and show you what I mean here. So basically, the metal right here, there we go, you can see it now. The metal right here kind of drew itself upward, so this was now higher than this. As a result, I have to push this metal back down in order to make it correctly in line with the original body lines of the car. The problem with this is if you run off and you take a dolly, like let's say this one right here that has a little curved edge to it, and you put it right here and you start trying to hammer that material back down in order to make this match this, what you end up doing, that I found the hard way, is you start drawing in this edge here as well as this edge right here. It starts pulling it inward to where this is no longer going to match the profile of the hood, and up here is now going to pull away from the seam where the windshield sits. So you're basically screwing up the body lines of the car. The way that I have gotten around this, and I've found to bend the rules a little bit, is I put in temporary little braces that I tack in right here, and then you can see that I've taken this piece and I have C-clamped it in place, so all of this cannot move, and as a result, this seam, this edge right here, now cannot go in that direction when I start hammering right here, because I've tied it in place. I've done the same thing up here, and I've put in self-tapping screws to try and make sure that those edges don't go anywhere, so that as I start pushing this material back down, this actually stretches instead of drawing in the material here and here. I'm also having from time to time to shave down some of this metal. This is 18 gauge. The car is not actually, the original metal is not actually that thick. So I'm also finding that it helps to kind of take like a flap wheel. I'll show you what I mean by that in case you don't know. That's a flap wheel. These things are really good at removing material without, gouging metal. So I've also had to remove some material through here to kind of thin this metal out. That way when I push it, it gives more and it starts to stretch. So I'm ultimately succeeding at getting this metal to move down south and head that way. I've also learned that the best way to do this when you're trying to weld up these seams like this is to take a plug weld tool that has like a brass or copper piece on the end, set it over it, and then weld from the back side, and as a result, you get a really nice weld that there's not a whole bunch of Bondo that needs to be done on the opposite side of the car. So these are just a couple of the things that I'm learning working on the cowl on my car about how to replace this stuff. It's worth mentioning that all I'm doing to bend the profile of this metal to match the car is just pushing it around a welding cylinder, a big metal tube that's maybe 8-10 inches in diameter in order to curve that metal. So I'm learning and I'm sharing with you guys. I hope that helps somebody out there. Appreciate you guys watching my channel. Y'all take care.